What's up, chats? Welcome in. It's Friday. We're talking about new stuff because we now have in our hands the entirety of the Chapter Approved 2025 card deck. I know there has been some scuttlebutt, which is a word I love, about the mission or the tournament companion, as well as the actual rules pamphlet. I only have a little bit of that right now and not enough to actually get any rules off of. If those are floating around and there are concrete versions of them that are just somebody like making stuff up and posting on Discord or whatever, then I would love to see them. But in my scouring of the interwebs, I haven't found them yet. But what we can talk about are the card docs. Fractal Friday? There's got to be like there's got to be some sort of card deck related pun we could use for this one. I don't know. TacticalTortoise versus Internet Being Pilot cheating allegations. I know. Yeah, I hope y'all liked that video because that one's a little bit of a spicy one. The video this morning. Yeah, it was that was a wild time. Every time for a while, and I do kind of like get into this funk every once in a while where I'm like, I'm just not gonna do rules videos. Everyone fucking hates them, and they always like make fun of me. But I don't know. I'm cracking back now. Shut the fuck up. If you just get upset about especially like low controversy things, explaining how the rules are written on the page is like one thing. If there's like additional meaning extrapolated or try to like sort of angle shoot stuff, I understand that you might not like that content, but like just having someone get upset about the rules commentary is
Ryan G donated $10 through Super Chat. I am starting to believe. According to your pile-in and consolidated video comments, you are the one able to bend and break the core rules as you see fit. There is no tortoise.
Somebody's charging a 20-man unit of Corn Berserkers with an attached Lord on a Juggernaut at me, and I just hold my hand, and they stop. I say, no, your charge is illegal because of something. Whoa, chat. All right, folks. Should we dive into this? Our map's going to be changing, so that's a great question. Here's what I have. Speaking personally, here's what I got. I have the card deck, and I have one page of the rules pamphlet. I don't have tournament companion. I don't have mission combinations. I don't have terrain layouts. So all that's and there's like some rules vagaries that I think will get answered. Whenever this fully releases, which is probably like tomorrow or something, next week or whatever. So I can't speak to that stuff, but I'm excited to talk about how the new things, the new stuff that we got going on. So yeah, let's hop in. So that's a Fold'em Friday. You gotta know when to hold your secondary objective cards, chat. So long story short, I don't know if the terrain layouts are changing in the tournament companion. I kind of hope not, because then I would have to make new ones for T5S2, but it is what it is. Let's hop in. What are like screenshots of the tournament companion? Yes, if there are any. I couldn't find any, but if they do exist, then yeah, hit me up. Hit me up with that stuff for sure. All right. I don't know if we needed an intro stinger again, but we got it because it's rad. So I think we'll probably start by talking about new primary missions. So obviously, like, most important thing about scoring, double intro. Whoa. That's an old meme, sir, but it checks out, I hope. I guess we could zoom out. The card layouts are a little funny. I think this is like some sort of templating document where there's something that goes here. You can hardly see my mouse. It's so bright. There's like a little, I don't know. I guess this is maybe a primary mission symbol or something, but it's like depressed all of the actual mechanics at the bottom of the card. I don't love that, but it is what it is. I don't know if the final cards will look like that, because I imagine they'll have textures, little overlays and stuff on them to look a little bit neater. If 11th is a year away, they should save any major terrain changes. Yeah, the scuttlebutt that I've heard is that they are just moving templates around. I doubt that they would actually change templates. The amount of people who got so fucking mad at that between 10th and 11th, or 9th and 10th, excuse me, when they went from 12 by 12 blocks to like 10 by 5 and 6 by 12, everyone was like, that's stupid. Why did I build all this terrain and now I have to change it? At least they made it so that you could cut the terrain down to be the correct size, but still, you don't want people to have to do that. The current rectangles are fine, in my opinion. So take and hold, you score up to 5 victory points at the end of the command phase or end of turn if you're second player, normal stuff. Unexploded ordnance looks like is still here. So let's read this one carefully to see if it's still a trash fire. So you gain an action usable in your shooting phase. Units from your army within range of different hazard objective markers can perform it. The end of your turn, if the unit performing the action is still in range of the hazard objective marker and you control the objective marker, you can move the objective markers up to 6. It cannot end on top of other objective markers or models inside impassable parts of terrain features. Then at the end of each player's turn, the player whose turn it is scores for each hazard objective marker that is wholly within their opponent's deployment zone, 6 inches of their opponent's deployment zone, or 12 inches of their opponent's deployment zone. I don't think this has changed at all. I guess we can actually verify. Which I'm sure people will be upset about if it's not. Yeah, I think this is the same. Scoreable at the end of the turn. Player whose turn it is scores 8 for wholly, 6 for within 6, or 5 for within 6, 2 for within 12. Yeah. Probably not going to see this one that often. I think that this is literally exactly the same. Neat. Let's go. Can you overlap the 3-inch circle? Yes. Yes. The 3-inch circle around an objective marker isn't actually... It's not a part of the marker. It's not even like a defined like thing. It's just an area of the battlefield, right? And we use the 3-inch circle because it's easier to showcase, like to display who and who is not within 3 inches for gameplay purposes. But there's no rules text surrounding the 3-inch border around the 40 mil objective marker. The rules literally only ever care about the 40 millimeter objective marker, and we just visualize the area around that you use to control it. I like that I like these little icons, by the way. This is something that they're adding new that like symbolizes different kind of like unique mechanics, and I think that's neat. And that's what I have to say about that. Oh, submission players have grown at the tournament before it was the bomb mission. Well, that is the bomb mission, right? It's the same one. It was servo skulls. It was servo skulls at the very beginning of the edition. Then it became unexploded ordnance. Now it's the same, I guess. Although servo skulls was much better than people give it credit for. Servo skulls, if you played it specifically on hidden supplies, was actually a really fun and good mission. But nobody wanted to play it, so it is what it is. If you got that combination of cards, it was actually super sick, but it is what it was. You ended up doing this base trade where you each take 2 objectives and then you would shunt them into each other's deployment zone. It was kind of sweet. You played this fun yin-yang like base trade game. But that was also because they changed the rules and no one actually understood how the rules changed for the Servo Skulls mission. Everyone misread it. It was a mess. Because they made it so that each one of these criterias, only one of these criterias would score for the entire board every single turn. So you would score like all the objectives within 12, all the objectives within 6, or all the objectives in your opponent's deployment zone. So having like one in each wouldn't score you 15 victory points. It would score you probably just 10, I guess, because you would have 2 things within 6. Wholly within 6, and then you would just ignore the third one, which made it like, so currently if you do end up getting the ability to push the objectives a lot, you can spike the score super high, especially if you're first player, because first player just gets to do this from the beginning of the game. And they had removed that in the previous incarnation of the mission, and then they got rid of that change when they changed it to be an action. So I don't know, this is not great. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that much. Azuma Kazuma. Good, cool to meet you, DreamHack. Hell yeah, dude. Thanks for coming and saying hi. I appreciate that. I always like meeting people at events. It's definitely it's kind of like, I don't know, it re-energizes me going to events and meeting people, because sometimes if I just do stuff online, it does I don't know, it like removes me from the game a little bit, which I don't love. So I like always go to events and seeing people. Scorched Earth still has a burn objective action. It is a 1 round action, completed at the end of the opponent's next turn or the end of the battle, whichever comes first. If you are within range of an objective marker and you control, the objective marker is burn, tiny fire symbol. Love it. That scores you 5 victory points if it was no man's land, 10 victory points if it was in the deployment zone. Looks like the other scores are the same. So that is identical. It looks like the primary missions for the most part are basically the same. The ritual. So the ritual, here's an interesting thing. The ritual does not describe that you remove the other objectives on the battlefield, which is crazy. So, So you start with 3 objectives and you can just build more objectives. I guess that does kind of necessarily restrict the potential areas where you could put all the new objectives, because you can, you can't put them within 6 inches of existing objectives. You set up an objective marker wholly within no man's land, within 1 inch of the unit performing the action. It is a 1 turn action, exactly 12 inches away from another objective marker, not within 6 inches of any other objective marker. It'll be interesting to see whether or not they keep the ruling that this is 12 inches from the center of another objective marker, which is really not counterintuitive, because it doesn't say that. But they had that in an FAQ later. But I don't know. And then you can score up to 15 victory points, 5 per objective you control at the end of the command phase. Yeah, it is going to be a lot of objectives. I almost wonder if there's a mission mutator that will remove objectives, and this one plays in addition to that. That's going to be a huge number of objectives, though. That feels very like hidden supplies, take and hold like energy, where there's just 6 objectives and you're like everywhere scoring 5 points. Like everyone just scores a minimum of 10 points a turn. There's like nothing your opponent can do. That feels a little bit like that. If you're just like, but it does. I think that it takes the emphasis off of doing the ritual action, which gave you gave specific benefits to some armies that had a lot of utility that could do it, and it also encourages you to play aggressively. Because I think previously you could play, like, part of the problem with the ritual is that you could play way too defensively. You saw people go first and then like on round 3 score, like start to, or round 4-ish, like top 4, start to score 15-point primary turns just because they had so many objectives on their side of the table. And they could just create a situation where you could not prevent them from scoring 15. But if the other player can do that from the middle of the table and like set the line of scrimmage further forward, that they actually might be able to counteract like a very defensive player on this deployment. It might be okay. I don't know. Hopefully they know what they're doing. We'll see. Gonna be each player sitting on a triangle of objectives on opposite sides. Yeah, that's how it already is, though, right? Like that's already how the mission worked. But now that there is an actual incentive for holding the middle, which is that you don't have to have as many perform as many ritual actions. So I don't know. I don't know if it's like it changes that much besides like making the board more cluttered, but hopefully it does like make a difference. Linchpin. Score at the end of your command phase, end of the command phase, or end of the turn if it's battle round 5 and you're going second. If the player whose turn does not control the objective marker in their deployment zone, they score 3 victory points per. If they do control the objective marker in their deployment zone, they score 3 victory points for that one and 5 for each other one. Normal stuff. That is the same. I don't think I'm missing anything there. Yep, that's identical.
Ryan G donated $5 through
Hey,
Super Chat.
thank you.
Not a huge amount of info, but try to send you what changed in Tournament Companion from Pariah Nexus.
Okay, yeah. So if it's like just people writing things, I'm less interested. What I was looking for, there's a lot of rumors going around, and some of them are contradictory. What I'm looking for is screenshots of the of the update, if they exist. All right, so it looks like there's new order stuff, maybe. Interesting. So we'll take a look at that one in a sec. Once we start talking about secondaries. Yeah, seems good. Yeah, we'll talk about that in a sec. Thank you for sending that over, Ryan. I appreciate that. And thanks for the super chat. Also, you sent me screenshots and a super chat. 2 things. That's wild. I have 1 page of the packet insert. That is all that I have been able to find on the internet so far. I have exactly the first page, which has no information on it. Look at that. What a time to be alive. It looks like somebody was just like photographing contents, and they didn't photograph like the actual content of the card. But like, I don't know. It talks about asymmetric war and stuff, but we already know about that. All right. Supply drop. Hopefully this one's different because this mission is a fucking trash fire. We somehow, because we had layout 1, and I'm streaming New York ATC next week, and I believe it's using a similar format to NTL where it's gonna be selectable missions. If that's the case, I have to choose the board we stream based on mission rather than taking table 1, because table 1 I think tends to have the more interesting matchups. But on the flip side, it has the mission selections on the NTL format are fucking atrocious. Not that they're bad in context, but on our end of the field where we're watching games that are interesting, Supply Drop is one of the worst missions to watch. It's so brutal. So let's see if it's changed. We watched it twice over the weekend, and it sucked both times, which is awkward. Players randomly select 2 different objective markers in no man's land, not in the center of the battlefield. Not in the center. Interesting. So the first objective selected is removed from the battlefield at the start of the 4th battle round. The second one is removed at the start of the 5th battle round. The center objective always remains. That is, at least to some extent, beneficial. It's not perfect, but it means that you're never going to like have someone's basically like expansion objective be the one that sticks around and make the game really hard. Now, most of the time they play this alongside symmetric layouts where the objectives are in a straight line down the middle, but you could run into situations where their terrain's more favorable on the side that the final objective stuck around at. And that was awkward. I also like that they color code these, so when we do overlays on stream, we can color code to the alpha and omega. Now the little symbols. I love the little symbols. I love symbology in games. I think it helps. Fun. Do you have the Half-Lotus? Do you have the other ones? Yeah, if you have more, then you can DM them to me in Discord. That's the easiest way to send pictures to me. If you have them, let's go. We're we're like open source rumorsing over here. We love Greek letters in this house. We love Greek letters. Second battle round onwards, end of the command phase or end of the turn if it's 5th battle round, you score victory points, the same as the previous 5 victory points for each up to the 3rd battle round. 4th battle round, you get 8 points because there's only 2 remaining. 5th battle round, you get 15. Still a little bit of a benefit for the second player. So it feels better than it was, but it doesn't feel significantly better than it was. I kind of wish this was like maybe 10 or something. Because the second player just getting a 15 for holding 1 objective is like crazy strong. But I don't know. Maybe it's okay. I doubt it, but they can maybe fix this with like terrain layouts, but I don't know really how they're going to do that. Purge the Foe is the next one. Another controversial one. People love to hate this one. At the end of the battle round, each player scores 4 victory points if one or more enemy units were destroyed. Second battle round onwards, they score 4 if more enemies than friendlies were destroyed. End of the command phase, they score 4. End of the turn if it's the 5th battle round. They score 4 victory points if they control 1 or more objectives. An additional 4 if they control more than their opponent. Yeah, so it's the same. Poop. I don't really know how they would change this mission. I don't think it's like the most unbalanced mission. It's just slightly harder for some armies, and you have to approach it a little differently. But I do understand that it's very controversial for sure. I think that part of the problem is that there's no reason, if you can't hold more than one objective reliably, so your opponent's like a gun line and the objectives are in the open, there's literally never any reason to hold a second one if your opponent's not threatening a hold more. And even if they're threatening a 2 out of 5 hold, you can just put one dude on your objective and basically contest their second objective. And I don't think that's not how ITC worked. And that's the problem, is that this is based on ITC, and it's like a different format, which like creates issues. So it plays super cagey, which is not, like I said, it requires you to approach the game differently, which is not terrible, but it's not the most well assembled mission in order to do that. It doesn't say anything about home objectives. Right. It never previously said anything about home objectives. You could just score 4 for holding your back line. Which it seems like you still can do as well. Let's see what we got. Oh, nice. Somebody has a full layout of the pamphlet. Sweet. So we'll take a peek at that after we go through missions here. Hold up. What's this? It's weird. I'd be curious if it's like says that on the final thing. I can't find it. Yeah. I can't see it. That's a funny typo though. What's up with that? Could you imagine if that was a secondary mission? Oh, the previous one for supply drop? Yeah, it does. It says that you score for holding objective markers in no man's land. So, and the objective markers selected are in no man's land for Alpha or Omega. So there's like, it doesn't have to say anything about your home objective. Your home objective just doesn't impact the primary at all. Like none of these things care about home objective, which is how it worked previously. Terraform. Purge the foe tactical. Let's go. Terraform. Let's go. You get a terraform action. Oh, excuse me, chat. In your shooting phase, one or more units from your army, each with I love the little leaf, the little terraform leaf. That's cute. One or more units from your army, each within range of a different objective marker that's not within your deployment zone. It completes at the end of the turn. If the unit performing the action is still in range of the same objective marker. Oh, it's a 1 turn action now, not a 1 round action. Whoa. However, if the objective is terraformed by your opponent, it's no longer terraformed by you. So instead of terraforming and locking the objective in for yourself for 2 victory points, your opponent can perform a 1 round action to remove your terraformation and put their own on top of it. I love this. This is and it's a 1 turn action. This is way cool. That's way more dynamic than it was previously. It also only gives you 1 victory points at the end of the turn. Oh, it's the end of each turn? Wait, is this objective like sick? Wait, what? So you can... So if you terraform... Does it have to be a no man's land objective? 1 or more units from your army. Different objective marker, not within your opponent's zone. Okay, so let's say you terraform your expansion. It will score 2 victory points per battle round because it scores at the end of your turn and the end of your opponent's turn. However, they can block half that scoring by unterraforming it by the end of their turn by completing a terraform action on it, which then terraforms it for them, so they score the victory point instead, and you don't. And then you just get 4 victory points up to 12 for holding objectives. And that's any objective marker. So you can hold your home objective, but you can't terraform it. This mission looks fun as hell. This is No tournament circuit will use it, but it's like so straightforward. I don't know. It just is. The only thing about it is that. So this is what I don't. I have a little gripe. Competitive circuit. The only thing that people don't like is when a mission adds almost any mutator on top of like regular scoring. So this is basically a regular mission, but it requires you to do actions sometimes, right? The only wrench that it throws into a standard game plan is that it benefits armies that have a high predominance of units that can perform actions, right? Like utility units and stuff. For the most part, I think giving those up for a single point of terraform is not going to be useful. So generally speaking, it's basically take and hold, but with the added caveat that you have performed an action on that objective, right? You can't just like charge onto objectives and block all 5 points. You just block 4 of the 5. So when you compare it to other missions, it's not that big of a difference. But I know that there's gonna be a subset of the competitive community who goes, "This is unacceptably complex." And you're like, what? It's just a 1-turn action that scores you some victory points. So I don't know. I do think that the competitive community has a tendency to cry foul on missions for like dumb reasons. I definitely think that there are certainly some cases where missions are just poorly designed. I think like original unexploded ordnance, where you just like go first and then you automatically win, is like super bad. I think supply drop is that case. I think scorched earth is that case as well. I think scorched earth is a trash fire, no pun intended, of a mission. But this is like so banal. You can score an extra victory point per turn if you do an action that your opponent can block. Okay, cool. I don't know. So I think that's fine. Gives armies that have less models or no infiltrate to be able to slow down mass armies. I don't know. Not this one in particular. I think that the armies with lots of units or infiltrate will actually be benefited by it. Right, like having a bunch of infiltrates or scouts or something just lets you terraform the middle really early. Your opponent can come back and stop that, but it does give you a little bit of a leg up. But I think missions like this, and I would be curious to see. I mean, like I might be wrong. And once we're a month in and we played a bunch of games with this mission, maybe it's just it's actually like just super duper strong for the first player, and the second player just like gets pooped on. But first of all, I think that like we have to give it a try, right? We can't just cut every mission out of the book immediately that's not taken hold at the very beginning. If we want to ban stuff later, I think that's fine. I've banned like half the missions in the Pariah Nexus packet in my events because they're super skewed one way or another. But I think that having missions like this in the format, and Purge the Foe is another example, although it's not as good of a one, that does incentivize you to play some different units, I think it's okay. Like I find myself putting at least 1 to 2 battle line units in my army just because of raised banners, for example, in the current packet, because in some cases those guys are just worth 3 points. If you have missions that do incentivize you to play more utility, more fast utility, then maybe you take 1 combat unit out and put 2 utility units in case that mission comes up. And I think that's okay. A format is allowed to force you to make some concessions to it. Are there factions that are going to be more or less impacted by that? Yeah, that's for sure, but that's the case for literally any mechanic in 40k. Doesn't give you close to an auto win once you terraform. Yeah, I think that's the case too. And the other thing too is that I think there are going to be some situations where you are incentivized to play like this hyper aggro play where you terraform every objective on the table on turn 1, except that's so aggressive and your army hasn't done anything that your opponent is probably just so far ahead on attrition that it's fine. Like you can fast armies will be able to terraform 3 objectives in the first turn of the game, right? That's going to score them 3 points. Oh, but it only scores second battle round onwards. So that's going to put them in a position to score 3 points, but it's undoable and they lose all those units most likely. And that's like an interesting sort of paradigm, right? Like you can create situations where you can start the game in this ahead position, but you have to give away a bunch of units to do it. So I don't know. I really like this change. This mission seems fun as hell, and I'm excited to try it. What terrain rules stay the same? Yeah, the mission packets don't adjust terrain rules outside of the tournament companions maps. They don't change the core rules unless we see them change in a rules commentary, which I would be shocked if we did. So I would assume that they would. Burden of Trust. This is another one that people don't like. There's like a slight, I think, benefit to the first player. Because of the way that the Burden of Trust missions are scored. But it's another one that's like relatively inoffensive. It's just annoying to track is the problem, and I think that's why people don't like it, which I think is fair. There can be missions that are mechanically dense to the point where it's not really worth it, because it's like, for the most part, take and hold with extra steps, right? So at the end of the command phase, for each objective marker, the player whose turn it is controls, they select a unit from their army within range to guard it until the start of their next turn. You score 4 victory points for holding at the end of your command phase. You score 2 victory points for guarding at the end of the opponent's turn. So you can score up to 6, and you can score... I believe that it was... yeah, you can score any objective that's not in your deployment zone, but you can guard any objective. So you can score 2 victory points on your home. The problem is signifying who's guarding. It ends up being kind of like a problematic mechanic. It's like, it's fine, I think, generally speaking, but like actually denoting it can get lost, and that gets a little bit tough to track. But of course, this burden is in the tournament companion presets. That's fair. Occasionally you run into it in like side events and stuff. Like I don't know. Burden of Trust is it's another one, like I said, where I think it's the effect on the game is like so minuscule, right? Like, oh, objectives score 6 sometimes instead of 4. Like, okay. But the problem is like the cognitive load in order to get to that extra like little modifier is like probably not worth it, really. It's not like the terraform is basically the same thing. It's like almost identical, except it requires an action and you just put a little token on the objective. This one's like, all right, every turn I have to declare the guard, then remember I score end of my opponent's turn, then my command phase like twice. And it just gets a little bit huff-tart. I don't know. It's whatever. Hidden Supplies is a primary mission now. That's interesting. Not a mutator. It's a 2 victory point handicap for the second player. Yeah, but the second player gets bottom 5 scoring. So, like, it's not, though, right? Like, listen. The second player is so advantaged in Pride X's. Like, it's fine. It's totally okay. So, you know, you get maybe some victory points less on the end of the game, but you also like hold half more objectives, so you actually like get 6 more points anyway, so it doesn't really matter. I don't know. Player going second is the first chance to score victory points this way, since they can get objectives in their first turn and score victory points in the opponent's next turn. Yeah. Oh, they switched it, is what you're saying. Oh, yeah, that's a good call. Let's read the original wording, because it used to be previously that you guarded every turn, right, and then you scored end of on round 2. So first player got first chance to score, and second player didn't. But now it's the opposite. Is that right? Or is it the same, and I'm just an idiot? Like, I haven't played this mission in ages, so maybe that's the problem. Second battle round onwards. Second battle round onwards. You score 2 victory points for each units that are guarding. You guard at the end of every command phase for each objective marker you control till the start of the next turn. Is that true? Player going second has the first chance to score victory points this way. They can guard objectives in their first turn. Why can't the second player or the first player guard objectives in their first turn? Because they don't score in first battle round, but second player does. Okay, yeah. All right, I get it. So for second player guards their home, right? And then on bottom 1, then bottom 2 or top 2 they score 2. Whereas the first player will only be scoring bottom top of 2 instead of bottom of 1. Or top of 2 instead of bottom of 2. Does that change the number of scores that you do? It doesn't, right? Because you're both guarding from turn 1, right? But I guess the first player doesn't score for the first round is the problem. Yeah, I guess that's the issue. We've definitely had this conversation before. I haven't played this mission so long. I forgot what the dynamic was. Yeah. Now start guarding turn 1. Oh yeah, so previously second battle round onwards you could start guarding. So first player got the opportunity to declare a guard first, right? Because they started scoring first. But it's reversed now. Okay, yeah, I don't know. That's the idea, right? It's like it's not that huge of a deal, right? But it's just like it's so confusing and convoluted that it's like silly. It's unnecessary. Yeah. All right, whatever. It doesn't matter. If it's not in the packet, then who cares? Nobody's gonna play that mission. Just print a different mission, G-Dub. What are we doing? Fair enough. Blade Tycons. Recently started playing Warhammer and Tabletop Simulator. Currently, you're just killing each other without points. What is a good mission to start learning primary and secondary? So start by playing Take and Hold, which is in the new packet. So if you play with the new packet, which will come out in a week or so, start by playing Take and Hold because it's the simplest one. You just score victory points for standing on objectives at the start of your turn. If you feel like you need to, just play with the primary objective and like at least like play one game with that and then move on. And if you don't feel very comfortable with secondary objectives, play some like really simple ones. Like Cleanse is a good one that are fixed. We'll talk about those momentarily. I actually don't know which all ones are in the packet here. Established Locust is a good one. Locust is a good one that can be fixed. So all the ones that say fixed, you can just choose to do over the course of the game instead of drawing. And like Engage in All Fronts is a good one. So it's like get in all the table quarters and like do an action in the middle. And play a game with those. And then once you feel confident with those mechanics, then move and start playing tactical objectives. So, but I would start with Take and Hold as a primary because it's the simplest one. But definitely like the game is based around objective play now. So like definitely move into playing objectives as quickly as you can. I'm gonna get back to where I was. Burden of Trust. Yuck. Let's talk about hidden supplies as a new mission. So this used to be a modifier. Proof that I cheats. That's true. I'm going to make a 20-minute video about how to play a Burden of Trust that's full of factual inaccuracies and ways to play that are banned in every tournament. Banned in every tournament. Good stuff, chat. So hidden supplies used to be a mission rule. It would apply to a primary mission, but now it's its own mission. So in the place objective step, set up one additional objective marker in No Man's Land. Before setting up this new objective marker, move the first objective marker in the center 6 inches directly towards one of the corners of the battlefield. If No Man's Land touches the corners, you must move it towards one of those corners. Otherwise, you roll off winner selects. I like that they codify exactly how that works because the previous version just didn't have that. It didn't tell you what to do if there was no predetermined place for the center objective marker to go. So you just had to make it up. That was a fucking mess. Players then set up the new objective marker 6 inches from the center of the battlefield towards the diagonally opposite corner of the battlefield. Blah, 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 blah. I kind of wish that they would like give you the 6 inches on a diagonal is like so skewy. Like, I wish they would give you like preset positions for it to be, you know, like X inches from the long edge and Y inches from the short edge or something. But I don't know. You have to define which edges you're talking about. Maybe it's too confusing to do that. But like make a diagonal and move 6 inches from the center is like can be fucked up so easily. The number of times I've seen hidden supplies where like they're like crooked or like in a line almost, because like people just like, I don't know, this looks like a diagonal, and that can in the relation to terrain that can change like a lot about who controls the middle objective. It's kind of obnoxious, and you know that they're always going to be the same position in relation to the table edges from the center if you're playing on a 60 by 44. So like you could just give them the measurements, but it's neither here nor there. Just measure accurately, I guess, is the answer. Second battle round onwards, end of the command phase or end of your turn. If it's the 5th battle round and you are going second, player whose turn is it scores 1 objective marker. If 5 points if they control 1 objective marker, not within the deployment zone. 5 points if they control 2 objective markers. 5 points if they control more. So this is literally ITC objective scoring. It doesn't have the kill scoring in it. It is literally ITC scoring. And this actually does prevent some of the issues we were talking about previously with hidden supplies take and hold, where you were basically just like locked into scoring like 10 to 15 points primary, right? You were just like, I'm going to hold my home and I'm going to hold my expansion objective, and that's 10 every turn. There's so many objectives, it's like hard to knock me off more than one, which means I'm just always scoring 10. Here's an interesting dynamic, though. Holding your home doesn't score you anything. So you're required to move forward unless you already have objectives, and then home is the tiebreaker for holding more, which is super cool. I really like this mission. This seems really cool. So most of the time you're going to be scoring 5 at this point, right? Because if you hold 2 out of your deployment zone, your opponent can likely knock you off a center one to knock you to 5. However, if you get to a position where you can hold 2 and prevent control of a third in the center, but you still hold your home, you can score up to 15 potentially. This seems good. I like it. I like it a lot. Cool. All right, should we talk about the packet, chat? I have packet things to discuss. Thank you, Half Lotus, for sending me the actual PDF. Boop. Here is the packet. I don't know what the cards are doing here, but here it is. This looks like it's like assembled from random leaks, I guess, and stuff. Let me see if I can fix my viewers so that the PDF actually shows. I'm not set up to do landscape documentary. Bloop. Oh. My face is going to be in the way a little bit here, I think, folks. Here we go. All right. So there are the kind of standard restriction for incursion missions. I like that incursion missions have their own mission set now, so you can buy this pack and play. If you have the combat patrol stuff already, you can buy this pack and play all the way through Strike Force. So you can play each iteration. There's no like weird limbo period where incursion's like big nothing. So that's super good. Oh no, what have I done? All right, chat. All my windows closed. Oh, just send a different one. I have to parse it here. Sorry, chat. I got a bunch of different messages with different pictures of the packet. I'm going to try to put this one together because it's a little bit easier. Okay. This one is cleaner, it looks like. So we'll do this one for now. That is Falco. Thank you for sending that over. All right. So yeah, this is all sort of North stuff. I don't think any of this stuff is relevant or has changed. Incursion allows you to take up to 1 Titanic character, so you can't take more than 1 knight. Okay. All right. Well, thanks, incursion missions. All right. So you've determined your mission parameters. So you were probably playing a Strike Force game, which means you use Strike Force deployment cards, primary mission, secondary mission, challenger. Twist cards are not even discussed here, it looks like. That's interesting. Yeah, none of these specify that you use twist cards. Oh, you can also use twist deck to add thematic conditions to the battle. It's in this next thing. This little note up in the top here. So that's optional, which I believe that means that competitive play will certainly not use it. Is what the scuttlebutt says. But we'll talk about the twist cards momentarily here. We'll run through them really quickly because I guess they're pretty spicy. Step 3, determine a mission. Draw a primary mission. If you're using them, draw a twist. Place objective markers. Create the battlefield. Determine attacker and defender, which will be a matter for asymmetric stuff for sure. Select secondary mission. So you interestingly, you create the battlefield first and then determine attacker defender. So asymmetric missions could be spicy. Select secondary missions. You play fixed or tactical, which is all the same. Designer's note: if you're not sure, just use tactical missions. They're like, guys, speed it along. I couldn't decide which one I wanted to do. Just fucking play tacticals. You know you want to. That's an extremely funny note. That's very good. Fixed missions, they have the little symbol on them and stuff. They are not discarded unless you're doing adapt or die. That was previously a mission modifier, which actually I kind of liked. It made it really easy to score, and it did create some weird situations where you would score at an action fixed until you couldn't score it anymore, and then you would turn it into a tactical or whatever, or redraw it into something else. So it was abusable, I think, but I did find that some of the mission mutators that would add more secondaries to your pool were kind of neat. I wish they were developed a little bit better, because then you would have less situations where you get fucked by tactical missions. Although obviously that's becoming less rarer and rarer as things go on. No more having 3 of 1 unit. No. That is only for incursion. That hasn't changed. So if you're playing Strike Force, then the rules are the same. Because it's described in the core rules. So you still use rule of 3, rule of 6, rule of 1. 1 epic hero, 1 of each epic hero, 3 of each other data sheet, 6 of each battle line dedicated transport. If you're playing 1,000 points, you play these restrictions instead. So tournament games and stuff will not be using these. But if you're learning and you're playing small points games, you use these restrictions. Yeah, which I think is good. Making incentivizing people to try 1,000-point games as they're learning the game is important. I might even run some casual incursion games now that these cards are here, or incursion events for new players to learn. Because right now we're just running jump in the deep end and play 2,000 points, which I think is a little bit daunting for people. But the incursion could be fun. Tactical missions. After revealing you lose tactical missions, you shuffle your deck. At the start of your first command phase, draw 2 cards from your secondary missions deck. Those are active for you until you achieve them at the start of each of your subsequent command phases. If you have fewer than 2 active secondary mission cards, draw from your secondary mission deck until you have 2. At the end of your command phase, you can spend CP to use new orders. So same timing as previously. This was always end of command phase, which caught a lot of people off guard because it actually happens after you roll Battle Shock, which can be relevant. Here is to my knowledge, new orders. Is this in this document? Oh, it is. I don't know why I need a second one here. Let's go. Somebody just underlined it for me. Thank you. Thank you for the highlighter. I appreciate that. Can I zoom in? Not really. We'll just zoom out so we can read the whole thing. So new orders at the end of your command phase. You choose one of your active secondary mission cards, discard it, and draw a new one. It's a core stratagem. So that's the same. That's unchanged, right? From Pariah Nexus. In addition, at the end of each player's turn, this is not part of the secondary. This is just the normal discarding. Each player using tactical missions does the following, starting with the player whose turn it is. Oh, I love this. Sequencing. I love a good sequence. Let's go. First, if you scored 1 or more victory points from a secondary mission card, discard that card. It is achieved. Then, you can discard 1 or more of your active secondary mission cards. If you do, and it is your turn, you gain 1 CP. So you can discard at the end of your opponent's turn if you haven't completed a secondary, but you don't gain command points unless it is your turn in which you're doing that. In addition, they've also clarified something here. Previously, and this happened occasionally, there were secondary mission cards. You always checked for achieving secondary missions at the end of each step. That was always the last thing you did. So you could sequence, or you were forced to sequence, the decision to discard a secondary before you scored victory points on it. So if you had a card that said, score victory points at the end of your turn if X, you could say, I haven't scored that yet, so the mission's not achieved. I will discard it. It seems like they might be trying to get around that. They would have to change the current timing in the rules commentary to say that the scoring doesn't always come last at the end of each turn. They would have to say that this sequence goes last, but I think that would be a good clarification, because it is weird to be like, I could score 2 on this card, but instead of doing that, I'm going to score 0 and get a command point, which is like probably not intended, but it is the way that they wrote the rules. It's really weird. No, yeah. The change to discard at the end of your opponent's turn is huge. So we'll see if they end up changing the timing. Right now, according to the timing that we have currently in the rules commentary, this is the same. But I do love that, because you would still go through this sequence before you score any end of turn cards. But I do love that they are like they're going to some extent to codify it down.
Magnus did nothing wrong, donated $5 through Super Chat. Did I miss the additional mission rule cards, i.e. Swift Action, Stalwarts,
Magnus did nothing wrong. Thank you for the Super Chat, my guy. So those, I believe, and I'm sure that we will take a peek here, have been moved to twists, which means they are likely not being used. I don't believe that there is a mission rule deck beyond twists. So I think that this is just what we got. But I haven't gone any farther into the deck because we didn't have this document previously, and now we do. This adds a lot of context, which is good. Only sabotage ends on opponent's turn now. Yeah, so there's some like the biggest example is like engage on all fronts, where engage on all fronts says at the end of your turn, score X. And you have the choice, and to be fair, you still have the choice to do this in this format, but it feels like that could change. And also, they've clarified kind of how the sequence works for other objectives that score during the turn. If you go to the end of the turn, you go because engage in all fronts, and I guess we can verify that I'm not talking out my butt here with how that secondary works. I just looked at it. Engage on all fronts. Yeah, so end of your turn. So currently the sequencing is that things that score victory points, so victory conditions, always sequence themselves last. So you ask yourself the question, do I want to sacrifice any of my cards? Then you go to scoring. So this you could discard even in a position where you are scoring it in order to gain command points from it. That could change in the future. I don't know if they'll change that. But if you have something like bring it down. Each time a monster or vehicle is or tactical, I guess. Oh, that one also checks end of turn. Actually, do these all check end of turn now? Huh. Wait, all right. Am I talking about my butt? I think they changed the timing on all of these. That's funny. So here's an example. This came up on stream earlier over the weekend, which is actually really interesting. Here's an example. So let's see. Here we go. No prisoners in Pry Nexus says, while this card is active, each time an enemy unit is destroyed, score 2 victory points. That means that when you go to this section, if you were playing with that rule, you would go, my no prisoners has scored victory points. It is achieved. I must now discard it. If in the new version, close to my document. Let's just close that one. I don't need that one. In the new version, no prisoners says, there we go. I just had it up. No prisoner says, oh no, this is the same. Oh wait, this is the only one that works this way? Yeah, okay, overwhelming force also works. Okay, so this hasn't changed. So what you can currently do is, because you score 2 victory points at the time that this card is achieved, when you go to the end of your turn, it automatically discards itself. If you have an objective that says, at the end of the turn, score victory points off of this, the this sequence happens before that occurs. So this sequence happens, you don't check to discard a mission secondary until at that time, right? So, but the fact that this is checking for mission secondaries beforehand, I think is automatically going to be that the sequencing is going to change, which means that it is almost certainly the case that you can no longer say, I haven't scored on this secondary yet, so I'm going to discard it before I accrue my victory points for it. It is almost certainly the case that that interaction is gone, right? So, like, I could, in Pariah Nexus, say, I have extend battle lines currently for 2 victory points, but I value a command point more than 2 victory points. I'm going to discard it. Now, it seems like they'll have to reword the core rules for this, but it seems like it will say your thing is achieved, discard it immediately. Then you can choose to discard any non-achieved secondaries, which I love. They'll have to change the current wording. The current rules are that you always check victory points after end of turn things, which means they'll have to change how this works, but that's probably almost certainly going to happen. Does it say you have to score before you choose to discard in rule sequence? So here it does. I believe that the current rules commentary says exactly the opposite. Which I looked up the other day. I'm going to spend about 15 seconds on this, and then I'm going to move on because it's almost certainly going to change. I found the rule over the weekend because somebody came out, had a question about it. And now I am going to see if I can find it again. There's a sequencing thing somewhere in it. All right, I can't find it off the top of my head right now. But the point that I'm trying to make here is that this new rule is incompatible with that previous way that the rules have been written. So it seems like that's changing, which I'm in favor of, because it was really counterintuitive. Like, you've completed a secondary. Why are you getting rid of the secondary but not scoring points? Well, because I can sequence the timing in a way that's beneficial to me, and that doesn't make sense when you read the cards verbatim. So I'm in favor of that. You throw away active secondary after seeing you scored. Right. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying it didn't work like this previously, but now it does, and that's great. Which I like. I'm saying I like this. I like this new rule. I just hope that they don't forget that they said that victory points already score at the end, because otherwise then you wouldn't discard active secondaries until the subsequent battle round, the subsequent turn, which would be bad. That would be a disaster. But I'm sure that they'll fix it. All right, let's move on. If your secondary mission deck runs out, you cannot generate any additional secondary missions. I wonder if is that possible? Did they put fewer secondaries in? Because I think theoretically previously it could not happen. but maybe there are fewer secondaries now. Throwing secondaries away in your opponent's turn is nice, yeah, for sure. And that, I guess that's like one thing I don't know how you would do that. You would sequence it in like a way that you would discard before you get to your turn a secondary that you were going to score anyway. If you just wanted to redraw for a better one. But I don't think that really matters. But there might be a situation in which, like, next turn I get an automatic extend battle lines, but like I want a better one, so I'll discard at the end of your turn instead of new ordersing. But that only matters if you hold objectives, so it doesn't. It's whatever. All right. Declare battle formations is the next one. Secretly note down which of your leader units will start the battle attached. Blah blah blah. Then reveal those decisions. Reserves restrictions are important because these seem to change every season. No more than half the units in your army can start the battle in reserves. The points total of those units cannot be more than half of the points total of your army. Reserve units cannot arrive in the battlefield during the first round, excluding units placed into strategic reserves during the battle. Any reserves units that have not arrived on the battlefield by the end of the third battle round are destroyed. So those are the same. There's one more than last time. It could happen if your opponent doesn't let you score call. Oh, sure, yeah, because they added more discard clauses. Yeah, I guess theoretically. That would suck. Imagine if you weren't capped on secondaries, but you'd gone through like all 20. Deploying armies, you take turns setting up your units one at a time, starting with the defender. Players' models must be set up wholly within their deployment zone. If it sets up a Titanic unit when it is their turn to set up, they skip their next turn to set up a unit. Neat. Then you redeploy before you determine first turn. You alternate to resolving any rules starting with the attacker. Then you determine first turn. In asymmetric, attacker always takes first. Interesting. So if you're playing asymmetric, the roll to attacker defender is actually also the roll to go first. That's the 8th edition energy right there. But it's cool because you at least know what you're doing, right? It's going to put a lot of pressure on defending player, but that's probably okay. Then you resolve pre-battle abilities. You alternate resolving any pre-battle rules from units in your army, units that your army might have, starting with the player who will take the first turn. I know there was an open question, and actually, let's take a look at Pariah Nexus real quick here. Do I have the Pariah Nexus mission thing? The rules sequence down. Rules that units in your army have, starting with the player who will take the first turn. So there was a big question about like how this is resolved because Jesus Christ, it's so annoying. I wish I could like turn that ability off, like the thing where sometimes pages like minimize all other pages. It's never useful and it's always annoying. Like now my chat's gone. I have to go find it. There was a question about how, like, whether or not this alternates unit to unit or player to player. It seems pretty clear that it is player to player. Because you resolve pre-battle rules from unit. Resolve pre-battle rules that units from their army have. Which stands to reason that it would refer to multiples, but it's the same term verbiage as previously, so I think it just works the same. Oh, it's because of Scout. So yeah, pre-battle is like singular purpose, right? Or is that start of first battle round? I thought that there was there a clarification that start of first battle round and begin battle or pre-battle was the same timing? I don't think so. I don't remember. I'm not gonna think about it too long. Yeah, there's just a clarification of redeployment in the thing. Yeah, I don't know. Alt F4 or Windows D will fix it, but minimize all is awful. Yeah. Is there a way to just disable it? I'll figure it out later. Is there a way to disable it in Windows? I'm sure there is, right? Has Tournament Companion with layouts dropped? Not to my knowledge. I don't believe we have that. Sounds like Scout alternates. There is a... we'll have to see if there's a clarification on it. I don't believe that Scout does, right? I think does Scouts have does Scouts like specify that it alternates between players? I don't remember where that is. Because it's not included in here. Is it in the Pariah Nexus document or something? I don't know. It's not relevant. I'm not going to spend time. We're probably going to get a new one anyway. All first player, then all second player. Oh, it's in the core rules? Okay, well, there you go. Neat. All right. Challenger cards. This is the big change. I hate that. It's just as an aside, I hate that, like, we have to spend time talking about this stuff because this is probably the least exciting stuff inside this entire like new format, right? But like they always change like tiny mechanics inside these where it's like, oh, actually, you can strategic reserve on turn 1 in some cases or whatever. And you're like, why? Why did you like add one word difference or something into one of these rules that like changes how every game you play technically has to resolve? That always like gets me upset, and that's why like poking through these is like really important. But it's really lame and boring, and I apologize for being lame and boring. I don't know. You can turn off the minimize thing in system multitasking. Public goat, you are the public goat. Thank you. I'll look into that after the game. Or after the stream. Challenger cards. Player becomes a challenger if at the start of the battle round they have fewer victory points than their opponents, and the difference between their victory points is 6 or more. They remain the challenger until the next battle round. While you are the challenger, draw a run challenger card at the start of your command phase. That's weird. So start of the battle round, they have fewer victory points than their opponent. Then in their command phase, they gain... I guess it kind of makes sense. Then in their command phase, they gain... So, hold up. I guess that is the only way that ends up being fair. I wonder if there's like a weird situation in which that like kind of blows things out. Like Battle Round 5 is weird because like second player is always lower. So, or generally lower, not always. Like most of the time they're lower. So like they're likely to be the challenger when they go to like get their big turn, which is like weird. So while you are the challenger, at the start of your command phase, draw 1 challenger card. So it's random. It's not chosen. It curbs the power a little bit, or quite a bit, I would say, because there's some cards where like move through walls with vehicles and stuff. Each challenger card represents 1 stratagem and 1 mission. You can complete the mission, or you can use the card as a stratagem. You cannot do both. Players use the same deck of challenger cards. So if one player draws a challenger card, it's gone. Rules cannot change the cost of a stratagem on a challenger card, and rules that generate command points cannot be triggered by the stratagem on a challenger card. So you can't like Vox back command points from your infantry squads or whatever. At the end of your turn, if you've not used the stratagem or completed the mission, discard the card. If you use the stratagem or complete the mission, discard the card. So interestingly, if the mission says like the card only checks whether it's discarded at the end of your turn or at the end of or when its action is completed. So you can say, I'm going to perform the mission action. Then if you end up needing the stratagem later, you can just discard it to the stratagem and the mission just fails. The action, I guess, is still ongoing, but you don't get any benefit from it, which is actually really cool. You can like, it's like really flexible how you use it, which is kind of sweet. Start a battle round so it checks before first player scoring. Right, which is important because otherwise first player would never be the challenger, essentially, right? Because if they like scored primary and then you checked challenger, second player would always be the challenger. It's also important to note that This is total victory points. I saw some people saying it was primary only. This is total victory points. So it checks secondary draws too. So if like you got 0 secondaries in turn 1, but the player going second like drew like a nuts 11 on top 1, then you are like automatically challenger going into round 2. I have an overlay idea for live stream. Turn on. First player is basically never going to be challenger anyway because second player controls it so easily. Do they control it easily though? Like, controlling it means that, like, I guess you could score fewer points, right? You could choose to be like, oh, instead of scoring 4 for cleanse, I'll score 2 for cleanse, so there's no challenger. But then it's like doing the same thing, right? Where it's like, oh, I don't get a 3 victory point challenger card, but I made my opponent score 2 points less. Like, then the mechanic is still implementing the intended effect. It's just doing so in a roundabout way. You know what I mean? Unless the second player is like, I don't know, just like not scoring any points, in which case like they're not even winning by that hard. I don't like it's whatever. Does that make sense? That's how it seems to me anyway. Putting yourself 6 behind to get 3 points or a random good strat doesn't feel too worth. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's more in the control of the person who can determine the scores going into the subsequent turn. Right? But if they're docking themselves points to prevent challenger, then those are points they're not scoring anyway. So instead of you getting a card that scores you points, they're scoring less points, which feels like the same thing, but you don't have to do actions to do it, you know? Choose not to score a 2-pointer. Got 6 points down. Got a challenger card. Blew your opponent on bottom 2. If you trade 2 points for a CP, 3 points, or a strat, you've gone up over scoring 2. Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. So so you're saying that the second player potentially has the choice to become the challenger by not scoring. Which I guess makes sense. But like then you're also introducing variants, right? Like you could just get a trash site. Well, we'll talk about the challenger cards in a sec. You could get a trash challenger card that doesn't score you anything. And then like, you know, whoops. But I see what you're saying. You're like, instead of scoring 2 for cleanse, I'll get a superior challenger card and a command point, right? And like, all right, fair enough. Like that could be problematic. We'll see. Yeah, potentially possible. I see what you're putting down, chat. That makes a total sense to me. End of the battle. Battle ends after 5 battle rounds have been completed. Even if one player has no models remaining at the start of their turn, players completed to play out their turns. Fucking phenomenal clarification. I can take that out of my FAQ, actually. I got that question a while ago because the core rules say as soon as a player has no models remaining, the game ends immediately. And it made it so that models that had effects that triggered when they were dead couldn't continue to play. Also, it meant that I think theoretically you could outscore someone who tabled you and then they didn't have a chance to score back, which was like problematic too. But I like that there's this inclusion here. Determine a victor. You can score up to 90 points between primary, secondary, and challenger cards. Primary and secondary is locked to 50 and 40. Challenger cards is locked to 12. Battle Ready gains you 10 in addition. So it's a 90-point pool that's made up of 3 separate pools that are distinct from each other. It is a little bit weird that challenger cards aren't secondary missions, but it does allow you to come back from like really trash primary. Like we had those situations with supply drop where like the first player was scoring like 15 a turn because they just like subsumed the middle. And then the second player was like, go fuck myself, I guess. And this like closes the gap a little bit, but not super quickly, which is good. Actions looks like are the same. Ooh, big change actually to actions. Ooh. All right. So you can't perform an action if you are an aircraft unit, battle shocked, have an OC characteristic of 0, is engagement range of an enemy unit, advanced or fell back this turn, or is otherwise not eligible to shoot. Fair enough. If you perform an action until that action is completed or until the end of the turn, whichever is latest, that unit is not eligible to shoot or declare a charge. Meaning you can't perform a full round action and Overwatch. You can't perform a full round action and heroically intervene. That's a huge change, because currently you can start to perform an action, then intervene on the opponent's turn if the action's a full, or not intervene, but Overwatch. Intervening would break it. But you can still, you can in the Prime Nexus rules, you can heroically intervene but break the action because you move. But now you are not eligible to heroically intervene. That's a big change, actually. That literally came up over the weekend. That was relevant to a game state. Wild, chat. In incursion missions, battle line units can advance and do actions and shoot and do actions. Probably just because you don't have that many units to play with anyway. You don't have utility to do actions. Designer's notes. Oh, there's designer's notes in the packet. I love this. Some cards award victory points for destroying enemy models or units. If you gain victory points described in those cards, you retain those victory points even if the destroyed models or units are subsequently returned. You can gain victory points again as the result of a relevant card. Love it. Some cards award victory points up to a stated limit, which may not be a round multiple. 2 victory points up to 5. In some cases, you can keep scoring up to the stated limit, then any excess VP awarded are lost. Love that. Some cards begin a section named "When Drawn," which details immediate next steps when such cards can either be can or must be discarded. I actually didn't notice many of these in the new ones. It felt like they cut a lot of the discard clauses, but we'll take a peek at the secondaries in a sec here. If such a card is a secondary mission card, the section only applies if you're using tacticals, of course. If an action's unit section places a limit on the number of units that can perform it, means it can only that number of units from your army can be performing the action at any one time. So it's not attempts to perform the action; it's model units currently completing the action. So if you attempt an action with one unit, and then break it, I think you continue to perform the action, so you can't attempt it again. It just won't complete at the end, which is interesting. Sabotage is the only full round action left. That might be the case. I don't think we noticed any in primary missions. Ritual and Terraform and Ordnance were both one turn actions. So yeah, I think you're right, Chet. All right, should we talk about secondary missions? I think it's time. Got it. These are some of my favorite things about this new thing. We'll talk about twists at the end because it's fun, and deployments and stuff. But some of the secondary mission changes are hugely cool. Are knights still exceptions? Only characters. Only Titanic characters are the exception. In the position where they can do it in engagement range. So you cannot shoot, or you can declare an action and shoot and charge if you're a character. Obviously, you can't. The action will fail if you charge, but or excuse me, you cannot declare a charge, but you can shoot, and you cannot declare another action, but you're still able to attack. So Titans are still exceptions. Baby Knights are not. They got rid of all the battle line synergies outside of incursion missions. All right, let's talk about secondaries. First one, recover assets. One of the most obnoxious ones from Pariah Nexus. How does it work now? Does the action still fail if you become battle shocked? I don't think it ever did, right? You just can't attempt to perform an action if you are battle shocked. Yeah, you cannot start to perform an action if you are battle shocked. If something battle shocks you while performing the action, it doesn't do anything. Yeah, there's no cutout for battle shock in this section here. Actually, I don't think that's how it works in Pariah Nexus either. But I don't remember off the top of my head. That very rarely mattered. All right. Let's go. Recover assets. So this used to be a full round action and could score you up to 6 if you did 3 asset recoveries. Now, when drawn, if you are playing an incursion mission, so you just redraw an incursion, you can, or you have fewer than 3 units in your army, you can discard and draw a new one. If you have 2, you can still complete it. So that's optional. You can choose to discard or you can hold it. So it's an action performed in your shooting phase. 2 or more units from your army, each within a different zone of the table, your deployment zone, no man's land, or your opponent's deployment zone, completes at the end of your turn. Used to be end of your opponent's turn. If either 2 or 3 of those units are still on the battlefield. So it actually doesn't complete. If you attempt it with 2 and your opponent kills one of them, it just doesn't complete. Which is weird. It doesn't score anyway, right? Like, it doesn't complete if you have less. I guess the thing is that if you have 2 units, and no, I don't see a reason where that would matter. But it doesn't make a difference though. Maybe there's like some weird corner case where it comes into play that the action completing, but the card failing is relevant. Because the card only checks if you completed the action this turn. So whatever. So in any battle round, which means you could complete it at the end of your opponent's turn or something. I don't know. Or it's any turn, end of your turn. Yeah. So any round of the game, so you can complete turn 1. And if you end of your turn or end of battle, whichever comes first. 2 of your players, if 2 of your units recovered assets, you get 3 victory points. If 3 of your units recovered assets, you get 5 victory points. So it's a lower ceiling than it used to be, but it's so much easier because you can just hit the button with 2 units and score 3 really easily. So it's not like this really annoying thing where you have to hold on to. That's awesome. Huge one. All right, assassination. You can score it fixed. You get 4 victory points when you kill characters with 4 or more wounds. 3 victory points if you kill characters with 3 or less wounds. So it doesn't score as highly on like Little Sisters characters and stuff, which I guess is good. If you play it tactical, you get 5 victory points if you destroyed a character model or killed all of your opponent's characters. So that's the same. The fixed changes a little different. Call the Horde is fixed. You can redraw it if there's no enemy units. It satisfy the condition on the card on the battlefield. It is fixed. You can score 5 victory points each time you kill an infantry unit with a starting strength of 13. The cutout for wound characteristic is gone. It's only starting strength now, I guess. So, but 13 is much easier, and it includes attached units. So if you have like 10 guardsmen with a platoon command squad, that's worth a call now. And it's 5 victory points when you do it either way. Importantly, now it scores if you've destroyed 1 or more units with the conditions in tactical objectives. You can't multi-score it with tacticals, which is good. Behind enemy lines, you can redraw it on the first battle round. You can score at any battle round, though. If you have 1 unit in your opponent's deployment zone, you get 3 victory points. 2, you get 4. Normal stuff. Yeah. And it's the same for fixed or tactical, which is cool. Area denial. Score at the end of your turn. 2 victory points if you have... it looks like the same as Pariah Nexus. 1 more units within 3 of the center. No enemy units within 3. 5 victory points if there's no enemy units within 6, but you still have one of your units within 3. Bring it down. Looks like some big changes. You can redraw it if there's no monsters or vehicles on the battlefield. If you play fixed, each time a monster or any monster vehicle is destroyed, you get 2 victory points. You get an additional 2 if it was wounds characteristic of 15 or higher, an additional 2 if it was 20 or higher. Now you get 4 victory points if 1 or more enemy monster or vehicle units were destroyed. So you don't do the thing where you screw knight players, where you damage all their vehicles a little bit and then bring it down and kill them all for like 25 points. Now you just get 4 for having it. I kind of wish this was 5. But I understand that Like, killing a rhino and getting 5 is, like, a little bit obnoxious. But, like, honestly, they're hard enough to kill in 10th edition. Like, I don't know. It could be fine. Killing a character's way harder, and that scores you 5. Like, I don't know. I guess it gives you an one extra point. Yeah. 10-man chosen with a Dark Apostle giving up call. I know. They're free now. They're free and clear. Your big beefy units can go forth and multiply, which is a big deal. That's. I also feel like it's gonna redraw like way more often, right? Because not caring about starting wind characteristic means that like actually like 80% of the game like has no cullable units in their entire codex. Like Space Marines just can't create a unit that big unless you play Space Wolves or Black Templars, I guess. But it's like Space Marines basically cap at 12. Unless you have like Calgar in a 10-man, like, or like Grimaldus, I guess, in a 10-man. There's no 2 model character units, right? In Space Marines. It's only 3 and 4. So like a big character in a 10-man could do it. But again, it's Black Templars. You could just be playing Crusaders or whatever. That's a big change. It makes it harder, I think, as well to like a Gimp call, because you can't have like your 10 like possessed wandering around the table and then like be like, I have a call target. Interesting. Dark Apostle. Oh, the Dark Apostle does. Oh, he has 2. Wait, the Dark Apostle has 2 friends. He's not a one guy. He's not one dude. With the I thought he has the one little tome bearer, right? I forgot he had 2 guys. Oh, I don't have his data sheet up for me. That's hilarious. Womp. I mean, in fairness, the Chosen would have given up call previously just by themselves. So it's not that big of a deal. Jeez, why does he have 2 models with him? That's crazy. That means he can't go into rhinos with most units. What a trash fire. Ugh, yuck. What the hell? Okay, G-Dub. We talked at length about like Hecaton land fortresses and how like poorly written their transport section is, and that feels like the exact same thing. That feels like we are talking about the same issue. That we talked about that yesterday. Cleanse. It's a 1-turn action. Units from your army in range of objective markers not within your deployment zone. It completes at the end of your turn if you're in range of the same objective marker. It cleanses the thing. You can, if you get 2 cleanses, you get 5 points for tactical. That's a huge difference. A lot of times what you saw is because it was only 2 points for the second cleanse, players had to make the arithmetic of like giving a utility unit to the center of the table. They do their expansion objective for free. And then they would have to do the arithmetic of putting a unit in the center to the middle objective and then losing that unit versus getting like 2 points and getting 2 points versus just holding the unit back and scoring a more powerful secondary later. 3 victory points makes that a lot more interesting. So I do like that change. Display of Might is brand new. You can redraw it on the first battle round. It only scores second battle round onwards, so important to note that it doesn't score round 1, but you could hold on to it if you want to. And don't forget that if you drew like 2 bad secondaries, you could hold on to it for round 2, see how many units your opponent puts into the middle of the table, and then decide to discard it at the end of their turn, which is actually a really cool dynamic. So there's actually, as long as you don't need the command point, there's no reason to discard this secondary at the end of your turn, unless you want to generate CP from it. Because it's always behooves you to see where your opponent moves. So, and it could force your opponent to play differently too. So second battle round onwards, at the end of your turn, if there are more units from your army than from your opponent's army wholly within no man's land, score 4 victory points. So again, you can draw it turn. Oh, this is required. So you actually can't hold it turn 1, but turn 2 onwards, you could hold it if you can't score it for a turn and determine how many units your opponent has moved before redrawing it. So you actually do have to redraw this in first battle round. But there are some instances where you would want to hang on to it for a bit. Horde armies displaying might. Well, it's high unit count armies, right? Because it checks units, not models. So putting 60 orc boys into the middle is only usually 3 units. And Custodies are MSU, so they actually often, they're also very aggressive. So they actually often outnumber that. So Custodies are actually, I think, great at scoring the secondary. It also checks wholly outside. So if you have like a bunch of big units, getting every single model from every single one of your units wholly within no man's land can be a little tough. So if you're playing like big vehicles or horde units, it also importantly doesn't check. It checks no man's land, not outside of your deployment zone. So if they go into your deployment zone, those units don't count for display of might. It only counts middle of the table. So there's like a bunch of weird instances where this actually becomes really easy to score. Unleash the Lions is very funny. Yeah, you just like hit the button and get 6 units in the middle. Get wrecked. Always the one model can't get out of deployment, yeah. And you're like, oh, I just need a 2-inch advance to get this unit out. Roll a 1. Good sick, dude. Defense Stronghold. Looks like it's the same. Draw a new card on battle round 1. Second battle round onwards, you score for 3 victory points if you hold your home objective. Engage on all fronts. This one is a huge change, and I actually really like this change. It's no longer, or it is fixed. You can still take it fixed. You have to be wholly within a table quarter, 6 inches away from the center of the battlefield. That gives you presence in the table quarter. If you have presence in 2 table quarters, which is the baseline. And so I think a lot of times if you're playing fixed secondaries, like this is a really strong one to take because worst case scenario, you're scoring a victory point per round. That's not good, but it's also not nothing, right? This is super easy, right? 2 table quarters is just your deployment zone in most instances. So you're going to get 1 victory point per turn. 3 table quarters gives you 4 victory points. If you have all 4 table quarters, or 2 victory points, excuse me. If you have all 4 table quarters, you get 4 victory points. I love that there's a baseline here. So it's harder to draw like engage something trash and score a 0 because you can be like, I'll discard 1 for a CP. I'll at least score a victory point. It's not good, but you're also potentially can be getting a challenger off of that turn. Like there's definitely, it helps you continue, like you passively score a lot better. I like that that's way less binary than getting to 3 table quarters right off the bat. Makes it hard to discard. Well, it still checks into your turn, right? It's not that it like scores you victory points at the end of your opponent's turn or something. That would be interesting if you could hold it and then score like presence on your opponent's turn. I don't know how you would do that, but you overran or something into a table quarter. Establish locus. Usable in your shooting phase. 1 unit from your army. It's a 1-turn action. Completes at the end of your turn if the unit is within your opponent's deployment zone or within 6 inches of the center of the battlefield. You establish a locus. If you're within 6 inches of the center, you get 2 victory points. If you're in your opponent's deployment zone, you get 4. That's unchanged. And it can be fixed. Extend battle lines is another one. Completes at the end of your turn if you control 1 or more objective markers in your deployment zone and 1 or more in no man's land. If you only control the objective marker in no man's land, you only score 2. Pretty straightforward. Marked for death. This one is a big difference. I actually really like this change as well. It feels like they tried to increase the passive scoring for a lot of the secondaries quite a bit, which I think is a really positive change for the game. When it's drawn, your opponent selects 3 units from their army on the battlefield, or 3 up to the entirety of their army if they only have that. Those selected units are your alpha targets. You then select 1 unit from your opponent's army. That is your gamma target. This threw me for a loop for a second because it chooses units in your opponent's army. So both the red and the green are enemy units, but it says that they are your target units, which confused me for a sec, but it makes sense, right? They're still the enemies, but they're your targets. So they're the ones you're supposed to kill. If there's no units from their army on the battlefield, discard and draw a new secondary. If you destroy an alpha target unit, so essentially exactly the same as Pariah Nexus marked for death, you score 5 victory points. However, if none of the alpha target units were destroyed, but your gamma target unit, the one that you choose, was destroyed, you score 2. So what likely is going to happen is that your opponent goes, the 3 things in the back of the table that are literally impossible to kill will be my marked for death, and you go, I'm going to kill 5 scouts. And your opponent goes, fair enough, and you kill 5 scouts and get 2 victory points. except for the 1 in a million situation where your opponent does have to choose relevant units and you do end up killing one, which does happen occasionally, but it's like 20% of the time. So this is oftentimes going to be a 2 victory point draw for killing a utility or something like that, which is totally fine, with an upside if you're like kicking the crap out of your opponent. No prisoners has returned. It is fixable now, although I guess allegedly it's not actually in the tournament packet, so you actually can't fix it. So it's fixable, except it's not. You get 2 victory points each time you destroy a non-character enemy if it's fixed. That's important. So bodyguard or non-character enemies give you 2. So killing a unit with a character will only ever get you 1. Because an attached character never counts for this. Otherwise, if you're tactical, it's every time a unit is destroyed up to 5 victory points. It's in case you both have the card. So no. What for like the ownership of the targets? No, it's you have alpha targets in your opponent, or you have target units in your opponent's army. Your opponent has target units in your army. Having them, like, it doesn't check if the stuff in your army dies. It only ever checks if your targets are destroyed, which are the ones that are in your opponent's army. The ones that the card has asked you to kill, right? Since big knights are characters, do they add to no prisoners? They do not. For if it's fixed. Which I guess is pretty important to limit the effect of like no prisoners bring it down, right? Because you could play against knights and just like hit the windmill slam on fixed, because you could kill an armiger for 4 victory points. So if they played 12 armigers and you killed 10 of them, you maxed secondary. But it means that the big knights will give you big bring it down, but no prisoners, which is interesting. It also means that like a hive tyrant, like an independent character like monster, does not count at all. They just don't give up points if their opponent's playing fixed. If they're playing tactical, everything counts. It doesn't matter. But if they're playing fixed, then there's like weird instances where it doesn't matter. Like Gilliman dying doesn't count for no prisoners if you're playing fixed against Space Marines. Pretty hilarious. If it wasn't your target and it was the target you score for your opponent's kills, I think that's true. Yeah, for sure. If it was like 1 or more alpha target units were destroyed, then it would count if both players had it. Yeah. I believe that's the case, but fortunately it's not. Overwhelming force. Score for 3 victory points up to a maximum of 5 each time an enemy at the start of the turn within range of an objective marker is destroyed. Destroyed leader and bodyguard units count separately for the purpose of scoring this mission, provided the attached unit started in the turn within range of an objective marker. So I think there's a question here, and I wonder if this got answered in Prey Nexus, and I actually don't know if it did. But like, I believe that if a character not on an objective is attached to a unit whose models are on an objective, destroying both of them gives you victory points because the character was a part of a unit that was on the objective at the start of the turn, even though they're considered a separate unit when they're destroyed, which is weird. That's certainly what this implies, but I think that needed clarification in the previous one, and I don't know if it ever got it, but it's a weird one. Overwhelming first turn, worst turn 1. Yeah. Well, yeah, because your opponent just plays around it, right? Sometimes you can give up. I've given up overwhelming turn 1 because I put Nurglings in the middle. But the 6-man of Nurglings, it's really hard to place them in a move blocking position that isn't on an objective. It's almost impossible. And you just hope your opponent doesn't draw it. So I don't know. Like worst case scenario, it's just like I wish you could redraw it if your opponent like had no units on no man's land objectives or something, but It is what it is. By going first? Oh, like top of one? Yeah, that's fair. Then it's basically impossible unless your opponent puts stuff on their home objective in line of sight, which is like they're never gonna do. Sabotage. I believe this is exactly the same. It's a unit within a terrain feature, not within your deployment zone. Completes end of your opponent's next turn or end of battle. You commit sabotage, scoring 3 victory points or 6 victory points if they're in your opponent's deployment zone. Normal stuff. Secure no man's land, 2 victory points for holding 1 objective in no man's land, 5 for holding 2. That's the same. Yeah, top of 1 overwhelming. Yeah. I don't think it would have been unreasonable to ask it to redraw in the first battle round. It's weird that it didn't. Storm hostile objective. If it's the first battle round, you can draw a new secondary mission card, shuffle this card back into your deck. In any battle round, at the end of your turn, if you control 1 or more objective markers that were controlled by your opponent at the start of the turn, score 4 victory points. Second battle round onwards, if your opponent didn't control any objective markers at the start, this is a big fix. I like this one. So you can redraw at turn 1. Even if you do and your opponent's holding an objective, you could take the objective for 4. So you don't run into a weird situation where your opponent's moved up to get extend battle lines top 1. You draw Storm and can't score it even though they're holding the middle. Now you can take the middle to score it. Or if they hold nothing because you kick the shit out of them, you can score 4 by just taking any objective. Storm having the clouds and overwhelming is odd. Yeah, that is weird. I agree. Tempting Target is back. This is from Leviathan. When drawn, your opponent selects 1 objective marker in no man's land to be Tempting Target with a cool little icon. Love it. At the end of either player's turn, if you control the Tempting Target objective marker, you score 5 victory points. Neat. Love a good Tempting Target. This is always a kind of a fun one. It depended like really heavily on when you drew it, like whether it was relevant. If it was like top 1 and your opponent's like, I don't know, tempt this object like expansion objective, but you're just gonna move an infiltrator there, you're like sick. But if you like draw it really late where your opponent's like entrenched on an objective, you're like sick. This sucks. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how that one ends up being. I kind of wish it was like it worked a little bit like Marked for Death, where it was like if you control the chosen tempting target, get 5. If you control the middle, get like 1 or something. But then it like gives you an out if they're just like have an impossible objective you're supposed to score. And that's all the secondaries. Chat's not the biggest changes, but some very minor ones. I do have to go momentarily here because I have a game in 5 minutes. Oh boy. And I haven't even yellow scribed my list yet, but we'll go do that in a sec. We'll talk about the twists real quick because we want to do that for folks who want to play twists. Obviously, these are optional, and it sounds like tournament games will not be using these. So for the purposes of this YouTube channel, these probably won't be relevant, but we'll talk about them at least once. Adapt or die at the end. If you're using fixed missions, you can replace a fixed mission. This is actually a mission rule previously that got played with very rarely. For players using tactical missions, after drawing a secondary mission card, you could draw another one and shuffle one of them back into the deck. So you could basically decide that one of your secondaries sucks and then reshuffle it for a later turn twice if you're using tacticals. The tough one for this one is when you locked in fixed and then like scored easy points early and then flipped into something like more powerful later. So if you're like, well, bring it down sucks in turn 1 because my opponent can't do anything, so I'm going to choose engage on all fronts and then like score 4 or 6 points on engage. Then round 2 or 3, when we're fighting, I'm going to flip into bring it down, which was like super toxic. That was like very dumb. But it came up occasionally. Now it's probably not going to come up at all. Night fighting. You can only attack enemies within 18 inches. Oh boy. Great for players who don't have a battlefields or the terrain yet. That's actually a good call out too. There's so many times I look on like Instagram and I'm like, I see a post where it's like, we're playing 40k. It's super fun. Game night, let's go. And it's one building on each side that's like 6 inches wide, and then some like walls that give cover, and I'm looking at like a Tyranid player against an Ultramarine player with 3 Redemptors and 2 Repulsors, and I'm like, one of these players is gonna have a good time in this game. And let me tell you, it's not the Tyranid player. But if you just like windmill slam this card on the table, the game actually becomes really interesting. So I like that one. Bloodlust. You are able to charge within 18 inches of one or more enemy units instead of within 12, and you roll 3d6 for charges. Nah, fam. What the fuck? That's so dumb. Just casual 3d6 charges. This 18-inch thing doesn't even matter. Who cares about that? I'm just gonna fucking make deep strike charges literally all game. Oh my god. Why would I ever put a unit on the table? Just always strategic reserve. They just make their charge 70% of the time. What the fuck is that? Incredible. High octane, you auto 6 advances. Yeah, if you have advance and do stuff that's like crazy strong. That's a stratagem in most armies. You just get it for free if you play that twist. That's wild. I read this as RuneScape for a second. I was like, cool, are we gonna farm? Like, let me just like power level prayer real quick by burying a bunch of dead people. Each time you make a normal or advanced move, you can move horizontally through terrain features. That's kind of fun. Tanks go through buildings. That's kind of a cool. I like that conceptually, because the idea is that like, hey, we're playing in a destroyed city where all the buildings are fucked up, and we're just gonna plow through them, right? It's not like a fortified, like established like structure or whatever. Random sounds of chain axe revving. Yeah. Lords of War. Until the end of the battle, add 3 to the attacks characteristic of each Warlord model. That's fun. Excluding vehicles, lame. But it includes monsters. So like Be'lakor gets like 9 melee attacks and 15 gunshots or whatever, or 10 melee attacks. I think he's 7 right now on his strike profile. But a knight doesn't get a bonus. Lame. Give it to Canis Rex. Make Canis Rex kill everything even harder. Like, who cares? Excluding vehicles. Hive Tyrant Venom Cannon. Magnus goes crazy. Oh my god, Magnus does go crazy. He's like D6 plus 4 plus 3D3 plus 3 on his gunshots. Fuck, dude. Oh my god. Dante's Inferno pistol. 3 shots sustained D3. Let's go. Let's go. Yeah, I think somebody said like Mortarion was really silly with this. I'm not sure like any of the big monsters would be like crazy, right? All the big Primarchs. You get like Gilliman's gun starts shooting 7 times. It's kind of funny. Marital Pride. Advancing does not make a battle unit eligible to start an action. This all excludes vehicles. Get fucked knights. Starting an action does not make a battle unit ineligible to shoot. So those are just the old ones, Stalwarts and Swift Action from the previous set. Point Blank. All ranged weapons have pistol. Okay. These are funny. I love them. Rapid escalation. You can set up reinforcements in turn 1. You cannot set up using deep strike. It's up to 400 points. Normal stuff. Oh, and then challengers, which we haven't actually talked about. Let me just. Oh. My game might get canceled, chat. 1 sec. I just checked my messages because it was supposed to start. I was like, I might be 5 minutes late because we have to talk about challenger missions. And they were like, I might cancel. All right, it's fine. we'll talk about that later. Let's talk about challengers. It sounds like at the very least we'll have time to talk about challengers. Not a fan of the challenger cards. Feels like you're punished for winning. Yeah. I mean, like, that's the case for any comeback mechanic, right? The goal is to just like win enough so that your opponent, like the challengers, don't totally overcome you, right? So here we go. Challenger mission number 1. And over the so don't have names. Over the line / Great Haste is the the effect of the card. So again, as a reminder, if at the start of the battle round you're 6 victory points below your opponent, then you become the challenger. At the start of your turn, you draw a card randomly. So these are not choosable. And over the course of that turn, you can either complete the objective or use the stratagem for free. As soon as you do either one of them, they discard the card. But it is completing the secondary. So like, if you don't do it by the end of your turn, but you have used the stratagem, then like you still have the stratagem available. You don't have to declare at the time you draw. Might need to adjust the number of VP you get down by. Yeah, I could. I mean, that's a pretty easy like lever to pull if it ends up being like very, very silly. All right, so first one, over the line. 1 or more units from your army that are excluding aircraft and battleshock units within your opponent's deployment zone. So you just get behind enemy lines, I guess. Then you get 3 victory points. Pretty neat. You get to draw this before you decide your reserves. So like you could just do deep strikes and stuff to get there if you need to. Drawing this early is bad though, because you almost certainly wouldn't be able to do it if you get it like round 2 or 3 or whatever. Great Haste, usable in your movement phase, is the alternative. You can add D6 inches to the movement characteristic of models in your unit. Doesn't require you to advance though, and it's before you move, before your selected move. So you get to add D6, and then you could choose to advance. So interestingly, you can either score this secondary for 3, or this could potentially allow you to score a more impactful secondary by making your unit faster. Or just like ensuring that you get a charge off or something. That does feel very powerful. Next one, So Chaos / Opportunistic Strike. It's also important to note that if one player draws one of these, the other player cannot draw it. Right? So because you use the same deck and then discard the card. So these are only going to be usable by one player at a time, which I don't know if I love, because having a powerful effect, I feel like it should be mirrored on both sides, but I don't know. So Chaos, usable at the or achievable at the end of your turn. If one or more enemy models from 2 or more different units were destroyed this turn, you get 3 victory points. Doesn't it need you to kill the units? It just kills any number of models from them. It's pretty easy. Again, like turn 1, that might not happen. But if you have indirect fire, like you'll probably get one dude with indirect fire, and then like use all your other guns to attack a different unit, and suddenly you scored it. Interesting. Opportunistic Strike is the other one. Is the secondary format. It's usable in your shooting phase. Use on one unit from your army not in engagement range. Select an enemy unit not within engagement range. That is not within engagement range of one or more units from your army. Is within 6 inches of and visible to your unit, the one that you selected. You throw a grenade at them, I guess. It's just a grenade. It's a slightly shorter range grenade. Also, hold up. It's a grenade that doesn't require that you are eligible to grenade, right? So it's actually strictly better. Weird. That's a really powerful card. These both feel incredibly good. 4 drawn per battle. Yeah, that's true. That's fair. You cannot do both. Yeah, as soon as you use the secondary, the card discard, so you lose this. As soon as you use the stratagem, excuse me, you lose the objective as well, the challenger mission. So zone defense slash strategic retreat. Zone defense scores end of your turn for each of the following areas: your deployment zone, 6 inches of the center of the battlefield, no man's land, and your opponent's deployment zone. You score 1 victory point up to a maximum of 3 per area that you have a unit from your army wholly within. Your deployment zone in no man's land is easy. That's just going to happen naturally. 6 inches of the center of the battlefield, it's a little bit tougher because you have to be wholly within it. So that feels like it's like probably 2, but 3 like on a good day, I guess. Which feels okay. You could grenade and use the strat, yeah, for sure. But like, what's weird is that you can fall back from an enemy and then use the strat, right? Because it doesn't require that you be eligible to shoot. It's just that you're not in engagement range. It's like the old grenade wording, where you could like advance up to a guy and then throw a grenade at him because like, oh, I like haven't been selected to shoot yet or whatever. Which was the only requirement. It feels a lot like that. Which I mean, I guess is kind of like the theme, right? You're doing something. You're like snap firing shots or whatever at them to deal damage rather than like actually doing an attack or like a concerted attack. Move, mortal grenade, and then challenger grenade. Yeah. But you lose like the interesting thing though is that like, oh man, this strat seems sick. I can do extra mortal wounds. But it's 3 mortal wounds, and you lose like basically an automatic 3 VP. Like this secondary is so easy unless you're just like nothing's happening in the game. As long as you draw it like in a relevant turn, like destroying models from 2 units just happens passively. Like randomly, like oops, I'm engaged with something. Probably models from that unit are going to be destroyed, right? So like you give up a really easy couple of victory points. Lose 3 VP to crush someone's spirits. Yeah, it's a moral victory. Zone defense is the next one. Usable in any battle round. Oh no, this is the one we just got. Strategic retreat is the secondary portion. Scoreable at the start of your shooting phase. 1 unit from your army, excluding monsters or vehicles, that is not within engagement range of enemy units, can go into strategic reserve. Love it. I'm extremely biased for this stratagem because I play factions with a predominance of deep strikers, and just putting stuff in strat reserve to deep strike it later is like hugely powerful. You can't up down monsters, I guess, but like we'll just up down our utility deep strikers for free. That seems good. You also interestingly like you know this at the start of your turn. So you can do things like command phase, like manipulate objectives. So you can like obsec an objective for a CP and then use the strat to like pull something into reserve off of that objective, which is like really clever. There's a bunch of cool stuff you can do. Always forget grenades are a thing because Admiral doesn't have them. Yeah, I'm the same. None of the factions I play have good access to grenades. All right, my games got canceled, chat. So we'll probably try to live stream a game, but we'll probably do a challenge game instead. I have a bunch of challenge lists that I gotta play. Let's do a poll. We're gonna so I'm gonna do a Twitch stream after this. Let's do a poll. I have 2 challenge games that I have to play that chat has super chatted me for. You guys got to choose which one I do. It's either red or blue, and you have to vote, and then that's the one I'll play later on Twitch. All right. Next one is Dug In versus Harbored Power. Dug In gives you 1 victory point at the end of your turn for each objective you control. Love it. So probably 2, but maybe 3. Harbored Power, usable in your shooting phase or your fight phase. 1 unit from your army not been selected to shoot or fight. You gain hazardous and either lethal or sustained. This feels like a slightly weaker one. This is a good secondary to drop if you a good secondary to drop if you have already drawn secondaries that could score like for holding the objective already. So you're like, hey guys, I want to like get extended battle lines, and so I hold the middle, or secure no man's land. So I hold 2 in the middle. Then you've drawn this on the same turn. That becomes an 8-point secondary instead of a 5. Like that's hugely powerful, but most of the time it's probably only going to score 2, unless you want to give away a unit to score an extra 1, or you're fighting for that objective anyway. So like it feels like it's like a 2.5 like score 1 instead of some of the ones which are like just automatically score 3. But the flip side is like you gain hazardous and sustained 1 is like okay, I guess so. That's fine, but not not the strongest thing ever. 11 shots with sustained 1. Yeah, and there's some stuff like sustained 1 on like, you know, I don't know, like a knight is going to be good or something. But in many cases, like I'm playing Space Marines and I gave like whatever, like a Storm Speeder sustained hits 1. Like, all right, I don't know if I care about that. If I'm playing MSU, if you're playing like big stompy idiots, then it's going to be great. Can you use Duggan on missions where you don't get points for home objective? Yeah, for sure. It's like secondaries, like extend battle lines, where you score extend battle lines for controlling your home objective. It doesn't care what the primary objective score is. It just cares that the objective marker's there and you have more OC on it than your opponent. So you get your home objective for this one, even if like you're playing Ritual or something that doesn't score your home objective. So it's another situation where scoring your home is going to be relevant. Attrition versus Pivotal Moment is the next one. It scores at the end of your turn when one or more enemy units, if one or more enemy units were destroyed this turn. Okay. It's like, where's the other text? You just kill something and you get 3 victory points? Sure. Okay. That's easy. That will probably happen in many cases. Pivotal Moment is the other one. Usable. You're able to shoot and declare a charge in a turn in which you advanced or felt. Man, some of these cards are not like the others. Would you like to get situationally like 2 victory points ish, or sustained hits 1, or would you like to get advance, fall back, and charge, or just score 3 victory points? Your choice. Like, what the fuck is that draw? That's crazy. I don't know, man. Like, imagine Space Marines get this and they're like, suddenly I have 2 units in Assault Doctrine. Let's fucking go, dude. Like, what? Okay. This feels very strong. Advance, shoot, and charge. Just like off the from randomly. That's probably worth 3 victory points just by itself, because you'll probably get to an objective or something. Oh my god. Okay. Yeah, righty then. Why catch back up when you can stay 6 points behind and just keep drawing the cards? Well, if you stay 6 points behind, then like you'll never catch up, right? Is the problem. But I don't know, we'll see. Is this a typo? Immediately? This should be an E in there, right? Interesting. Secure Extraction Zone is Secure Extraction Zone versus Force of Breach. It's usable in your shooting phase. One unit from your army not within your deployment zone, wholly within 9 inches of one or more battlefield edges. You score for 3 victory points immediately. It's just containment, but with extra steps. Interestingly, the new action mechanics like kind of come into play here, because actions prevent you from doing stuff until the end of the turn, even if the action's completed, which is interesting. So they're still ineligible to shoot and charge, even though the action's already done, which is important. Force of Breach is the stratagem, usable in your movement phase. One unit from your army that's not been selected to move till the end of the. Yeah, we looked at this one when they came out of the thingamajigger, the preview article. Jesus. you can go through models and train features, which is cool. That's a good one. That's a cool one because like it allows you to reposition your tanks and stuff really easily. Interestingly, this is a really trash one if you have no big units and you're all infantry or something. This is just like fucking horrible. But obviously, this is a good secondary if you're all infantry because you just put a 5-man utility into and score half of a containment for free, basically. Can no prisoners be taken and fixed in competitive? They have said it cannot. We don't have the full tournament packet yet, but that has been what has been stated. Second player should not be able to draw these going into round 5. Yeah, I think that's... Yeah, I wouldn't be remiss if there simply wasn't a challenger in round 5. Because it does feel like some of these are gonna like totally skew the second player dynamic, but I'll have to play some cards with it, or play some games with it. They definitely misspelled immediately here. I just had to look it up. There's an E. There's an E after the before the L. They did it on all of them? That's weird. Okay. It's like, am I wrong? No. There's an E there. What the fuck? It's established cons versus renewed focus is the next one. Unit from your army more than 15 inches away from all other units in your army. It's this action, completes immediately, you score 3 victory points. That was actually kind of hard to do. 15 inches is a really big radius. And yeah, I don't know. That's a tough one. Team tournaments are gonna have a lot more 10-10 scores. Yeah, I mean that's fine. Go to regular scoring, you cowards. If all the scores become 10-10, then there's no need for differential scoring. You just play win-loss. I'm biased though, as someone who doesn't super love differential scoring. Renewed focus, your shooting or your fight phase. When you're from your army that has not been selected to shoot or fight, you get reroll hit and wound rolls of 1. That's pretty good. This one's actually a lot more close. Like this is the power level I kind of like these cards at, because this is a relatively difficult secondary to score. It requires you to be in a very particular board state or like contort yourself into a position where you can score this one. Like if you entirely, like almost entirely vacate a corner of the battlefield and have a deep striker that can like jump back there and do the secondary, then you can get 3 victory points, like fine. Or you can get like this relatively mild effect is like pretty interesting stuff where it's like you can advance and charge or like just kill a unit for 3 extra points is like, well, okay. Next one, self-preservation. Usable in your shooting phase. One unit from your army does it. At the end of your turn, if that unit is more than 18 inches away from all enemy units, you score 3 victory points. That's interesting. So it's use. Okay, so starts in your shooting phase, completes if at the end of your turn if you're 18 inches away. So you have the opportunity to kill everyone within 18 inches of them. It's a self-preservation action. Please don't hurt me. Please keep them away. They're unclean. I don't like it. You score 3 victory points. That's hilarious. 18 inches from enemies is a little bit easier because you can just like, you can put a guy in a corner and they'll probably be 18 inches away from enemies. That's much more difficult in my opinion than 15 inches away from allies. All in is the second stratagem portion. Usable in your fight phase. One unit from your army that has not been selected to fight this phase until the end of the phase. Each time a model in your unit makes a pilot or consolidate move, it can move up to 6. In addition, does not need to move and to move closer to the closest enemy model. However, it must go as close as possible to the closest enemy unit. So it gives you the Harlequin detachment thing, which is like kind of situational. It's good for taking objectives, but it is very situational. Yeah, you draw randomly, so the power level is like pretty wild. You can't just choose the best one. Reroll ones, yeah, I mean reroll ones is it's not like a huge effect, but it is just good, right? It's never a bad thing to have. Focused effort, burst of speed is the next one. Oh, these are cool. Focused effort, scores end of your turn. Models send 2 or more units from your army that made 1 or more attacks against the same enemy unit. Models in the enemy unit lost 1 or more wounds as a result of any of those attacks. You score 3 victory points. So you concentrate your fire from 2 units into 1 unit, and you do any damage with either one of your units. 3 victory points. Let's go. And then the stratagem portion, burst of speed, end of your shooting phase. One unit from your army can make a normal move up to d6 inches, so you can fire and fade. It's actually super powerful. Oh man, you're gonna be able to fucking fire and fade noise marines and stuff. What the fuck? You draw this at the right time? Disgusting. At least you can't plan for these, right? So all of the best situations only come up occasionally, which is kind of good. Someone said choose a card. Yeah, no worries. Yeah, it's draw a card. And interestingly, you draw a card from the same deck. So if a powerful card is out of the deck, it's not going to come back during that game. So you get only one of them. We have deployment maps. I don't know if these have changed that much. They seem pretty. Yeah, they seem like the same. And that's the whole thing, chat. That's the whole deck. That's all the cards and the information pamphlet. What a long stream this has been. My hair's all messed up and everything. That's what's going on. Yeah, well, I'm curious to see how the challenger cards end up being played or end up playing out. I'm definitely worried that the power level is going to be kind of all over the place, and I wonder if they are gameable. But I like them a lot better than secret missions. Secret missions were stupid and convoluted, and everyone forgot they existed because they were like dumb. At least challengers will like constantly be on the in the question, in the contention. The one problem I have with it, I think, is that they added a comeback mechanic, but there's already a second player comeback mechanic built into the primary, and they didn't change that one at all, right? So, like, I don't know. I'm a little worried that the second player will get more opportunities to like do well, right? Because if you're considering bottom 5 scoring, and also you have all these like free stratagems that you're getting, like, some of which are really powerful, then I'd be worried that you have too much going for you, but we'll see. I don't know. Everyone hated secret missions. Yeah, they're stupid. Do I think they might get removed? Yeah, for sure. At least at the beginning. I think people will kind of like probably fall in whatever US Open decides to do. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see some formats just be like, nah, brah, these ain't it, fam. Like, I wonder if like WTC is just not going to use them. I wouldn't be shocked about that, honestly. Just be like, what? Something that makes like differential scoring really tough and also like adds a bunch of like additional like gamification effects to scoring. Like, nah, you have to play primary and only primary. I could see that happen. So anyway, I don't know. We'll see. Good stuff though. I'm excited to see how they end up working out. Don't think an issue if you make it like 10 points. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no judgment until it's been split. Yeah. I mean, give it at least a month, right? Playing these, and like if it sucks after a couple of weeks of playing, like, yeah, sure, we can. The community will have a discussion about it, definitely. And we'll see some big format sort of like controllers start to make some changes. But you definitely could pull the lever to change the requirements for Challenger. I do think that there are some situations that you can get into. I mean, like I said before, we watched them over the weekend where someone's just like 45 on primary to 0, and the other player has literally nothing they can do. Challenger missions, that's the specific situation designed for Challenger missions. To give you something to do, right? A potential out. it would be tough. It would be annoying if you are like, oh, I'm down a couple because of a bad round of secondary draws, but like the game is still like everyone, we're still tied materially. We're tied on primary. Like I have bottom 5 scoring or whatever, so it's like a fine board state. Like you're totally in an okay spot, but you just get this like you get advance and charge for free like randomly on a unit, and you're like, oh, sick, okay. Well, now the game state has reversed, right? And you're like, I don't know if that's really what the situation that we want. If your opponent like 11 and you got 0 on secondary for a turn, sure, like you get a leg up. But yeah, if you're just down 1 card essentially, and you can challenge or mission yourself back into a winning position, I do feel like that might be too strong. But we'll see. It could be that we see some changes in the future. Great changes across the board. Yeah, I agree. The secondary changes look huge. No mission rule is interesting. Honestly, the mission rules were kind of like whatever, right? Like only a couple of them got used because some of them were too powerful, and they were easy to forget a lot of times. Like how many times did you see people like, oh, I'm going to CP reroll turn 1, and then like 2 turns later you're like, oh, it's Fog of War. We couldn't have done that. So I think that's fine. I think that putting more focus on the primary mission is going to be good. So overall, I think I'm very excited about the changes for sure. Glad the battle line stuff is gone. Yeah, I'll miss banners, but I do think that like Knights made it too hard, dude. Anytime you focus all the effects on a specific unit keyword, it just like it skews the use case so hard. You're like, some factions are gonna be insane with this, some factions are gonna be literally unplayable, and you have no idea where that's gonna end up going. So I don't know. Anyway, chat, I'm gonna pop off for a little bit here. I'm gonna take a quick break, and then I'm gonna be live over on Twitch. What did people want to play? Red? All right. Okay. All right, chat. Does anyone have this? If somebody has these in TTS, I will play the new missions. I don't want to build a deck right now because it's like time consuming and annoying. But if someone has a deck that they've built out of these already, I will play them. So if you have one, hit me up. If you have a mod for it, hit me up because I'll play the shit out of the new secondaries and the new primaries or whatever. So I don't know. Yeah, hit me. You have the new missions in TTS? If you have them in TTS, then hey, send me the link and I'll play them. I think that'd be neat. Otherwise, I'm going to pop off. Thanks everyone for hanging out. Come hang out with me on Twitch. Let me throw the Twitch link in the chat, as is the thing now. Here we go. Boop. And I will see you in a little bit. Thanks everyone for hanging out. Cheers. Keep it classy, folks. Have a happy wargaming. And I'll see you on Twitch. Goodbye, everybody.